Number of arrests, but no reports of any serious disturbance. Earlier, about 200 troops escorted the royal procession from Buckingham Palace as thousands lined the streets, anxious for a decent view.
We actually got a wave from King Charles. We waved and he kindly waved back. So, yeah, that was a highlight.
The royal couple afterwards departed Westminster Abbey for Buckingham Palace and a greeting from the balcony as the royal celebrations continue.
The government is being accused of completely neglecting the rural dimension of the housing crisis. The Rural Independent Group of TDs will table a motion in the Dáil next week urging the government to publish new rural planning guidelines and address the huge backlog in on board Planola. They're also calling for the Help to Buy scheme to be extended to second-hand homes and for a €20,000 grant for first-time builders. Independent TD Carol Nolan says accelerating solutions will help free up rental properties.
Those couples who come into my office, and I'm sure my colleagues' offices around the country as well, they will tell you that they have no choice, they're forced to rent. So they're taking up a rented property, and there are very few houses for rent at a reasonable price.
Thousands of Irish householders will be hit with extra bin charges from Monday. Panda will start charging $3.80 for each compost bin lift. The new charge comes less than a year after the company increased its general waste bin lift charges by more than 12% and also hiked its service charges. That's it for now. We'll have more in an hour.
News Talk weather.
Thanks to Ryanair. Proposing this summer? Get hitched in Paris, Lisbon or Rome with Ryanair's low-fare flights.
A mix of cloud and sunny spells today, but isolated patches of mist and low cloud may linger near the coast. Scattered, slow-moving showers. Some will be heavy with a chance of thundery downpours and spot flooding. Top temperatures 16 to 18 degrees. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky, catch West Ham versus Man United this Sunday. Live only on BT Sport.
This is News Talk.
And welcome back to Off the Ball Saturday here on News Talk. John Duggan with you 3 to 5. This is Football Saturday. Remember, Football on Off the Ball brought to you by Sky. Watch every live Premier League game this season on Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports. You can text us 53106, tweet us at Off the Ball. We're streaming the conversation as well, so you can listen on your radio across the country on News Talk, but also watch us if you'd like on the digital and social channels. For Twitter at Off the Ball, YouTube, Facebook. We also podcast the show on the Off the Ball section of the Go Loud network every week, folks. So it's also available wherever you get your pods. If you don't miss, or if you do miss the live broadcast on News Talk, if you don't want to miss it, listen to the pod. We're joined by the former Republic of Ireland striker David Connolly on the line, and in studio by the Cobh Ramblers boss Shane Keegan and the broadcaster and journalist Johnny Ward. Shane Keegan, you won 4-1 last night.
Good win last night, John. Very, very happy, yeah. Yeah, we had a great week actually because there was games on the bank holiday Monday as well. We had a narrow loss to Johnny's Galway over in Galway last Friday night, but we gave it a right good rattle, and then got 2 home wins on Monday and Friday. So it's been a good week. So it has smiles on the faces today, and busy night last night. The match first, and then we had up at 4 o'clock this morning with the young fella for Darkness into Light, which was brilliant, and up here. Well, so it's been a busy couple of hours.
Yeah, it's a great initiative, Darkness into Light.
It's fantastic, yes. Fantastic, yeah, it really is.
So many people around the country. Well done everybody who was involved in that today. And you had a lad who scored a couple of times last night?
Yeah, I was just talking to Johnny outside. Liam Kervick. He's a great fella. We have him on loan from Waterford United. But he's one of these young fellas. He's real gamey, and he's constantly got a smile on his face, and he's been making a consistent impression in training without really getting his chance. And he probably was getting to the stage where he was starting to think, is this lad ever going to chance me and throw me in here, kind of a thing. So he came off the bench on Monday night, scored with his first touch. So we threw him in from the start last night, and he got 2 absolute crackers. He's right-footed, got 2 crackers off his left, and a lovely cartwheel into a backflip celebration.
That was the highlight of the whole
That was
thing,
the bit that impressed Johnny the most, was the cartwheel into the backflip.
18 or 19?
He would have been still 19s last year, so whatever. He's 19-20 now, yeah.
To have the wherewithal to do that celebration after your first goal last night, and pulled it off to it, he as well.
He did, he absolutely nailed it, so he did. And the second goal was even better than the first, so he's definitely in with a big smile on his face this weekend as well.
I was watching a lot of football recently and kind of watching back a lot of highlights, and I see nearly every single celebration is lads sliding into the corner, sliding on pitches. What's happened to great celebrations?
Haaland in particular, yeah. Alan Shearer used to get a lot of slag, and he used to just put his hand up in the air. But yeah, it's good to see that celebration last night. Haven't seen one of them in a while, and I just like that story, JD, because you have a kid who was essentially on loan from a club at which he wasn't. Like a big club, Watford would be expected to, be playing in the Premier Division and should be at this stage, and sometimes you see this with some of the TV channels as well. If you have loads of money, you can spend loads of money. If you don't have much money, you have to be resourceful. And I think TG Carr is a great example of that. They have very little money, but they do a brilliant job. And Shane could be the manager of Shamrock Rovers. He could be the manager of Derry City with all this money. But at Cobh, it's very different. You have to shop around, get lads in on loan. And I love the idea of some of the players he's gotten from different pathways, some from non-league, some from other clubs that he would have worked with before, and some like this lad who's essentially from the Watford 19s. And when it works out, then it's great, although he can play against Watford next week just as he's getting going.
I had a stormer last night, JD, and he's cock a hoop this morning, and now all of a sudden he's probably I don't know what stage it dawned on him. It dawned on me as I was driving home. You immediately, one game is over and you immediately turn your attention to the next. And I was saying, well, Liam has definitely done enough to keep his place anyway. Next thing it dawned on me, who are we playing next week? Watford United. His loan agreement says he can't play against his parent club, which will kill him, I'm sure. But look, it was, as I say, a great impression from him, that's for sure.
We have the Man City Leeds game on, folks, so we'll keep you right up to date on that, and all the other Premier League games that are going on as well. So Bournemouth, Chelsea, Spurs, Palace and Wolves, Villa. Liverpool kick off against Brentford at 5:30. David Connolly, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, John, Shane, Johnny?
Yeah, all good. Your old strike partner Robbie Keane in the backroom team at Leeds. So this is a chance for Robbie now to get back into coaching, and if they stay up, it'll be a great story.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Robbie, Robbie's there's only so long you can keep coaching at Soccer Aid, and he must be itching to get back in. So it's been a bit of a disaster with Stephen coming in and Robbie just just on sort of gardening leave or whatever. So I think it's a great opportunity for him, and I think Big Sam's already said he's come in, he's had a great impact in the dressing room, bubbly, try to get everyone up, improve the energy, the atmosphere around the place, and Robbie will definitely do that. So Carl Robinson's gone in too, and Carl's an experienced manager, and I thought it was hilarious though that Sammy Lee was on jury duty. I mean, that was just a classic, that they couldn't quite get Sammy Lee out of jury duty, but they've got Robbie in anyway, which is great stuff.
You ever been on jury duty yourself, David?
I haven't, but can you imagine, obviously, him trying to get out of it to the judge? The judge probably thinks, what, you want to go somewhere for 4 weeks? What job lasts only 4 weeks, apart from being in the jury? Probably, yeah, being a fireman Sam, that's about it.
David, can I ask you, just thinking of Robbie, like, Robbie's finishing always looked so natural and so instinctive. Do you think he would be capable of how coachable is that? Do you think he can go in there, and I know it's a very short period of time, but I suppose longer term in his coaching career, do you think he can coach strikers to have that kind of movement, that kind of quickness of thinking that he had naturally as a player?
I mean, look, I think that's a really it's a good question. I think it's a difficult one to answer because coaching and managing and playing obviously are completely different. Now, he did work with Jonathan Woodgate, didn't he, at Borough, and that didn't go particularly well. But within that, like, Jonathan was the manager and Robbie was the coach. Now, he has been a coach for in a couple of places now, and coaching is a difficult skill because there's different sort of types of coach, as you very well know, right, Shane?
Yeah.
In terms of, you've got one who might be a pure teacher, a fantastic coach, but maybe, he's not the one that the lads might warm to. It might not be quite as a good of connection with the manager. Then you've got those that might be, you really, really like them. They can put on a session, but, they're not going to particularly coach you that well, and very rarely do you get a coach who's got it all. Very, very rarely. And if you do, then you're destined for greatness and you're very popular, and then you end up being employed numerous times everywhere else. So it's hard to know because I haven't worked Robbie, so I don't know exactly, what Robbie's skill set is. But it's one thing knowing it; it's another thing being able to transfer it onto the players on the pitch. The thing is, they haven't got that long, right? So if you look at what impact he's going to have, I imagine it will be things like being organised will come down to Big Sam and his analysis. Getting the boys up for it and being in a positive frame of mind might come down to Robbie as well. But being good on the training ground be Robbie. It'd probably be Carl Robinson, to be honest, that will be doing a lot of the coaching. But nonetheless, it's great to see Robbie back in the game.
Just funny, JD, looking at just a quick kind of Google there of David and Robbie, and what comes up is an Irish World Cup squad 2002 kind of illustration. But you're just looking at all the names here: Shay Given, Steve Finn and Ian Hart, Kenny Cunningham, Steve Staunton, Roy Keane, Jason McAteer, Matt Holland, Damien Duff, Robbie Keane, Kevin Kilban, Mark Hensler, David Connolly, Gary Breen, Richard Dunn, Dean Kiley, Niall Quinn, Gary Kelly, Clinton Morrison, Andy O'Brien, Stephen Reid, Lee Carsley, Alan Kelly, Coach Mick McCarthy. How many of those guys are actually involved in coaching now? How many are first team coaches? Obviously Damien Duff comes to mind. Mick McCarthy was
Lee Carsley
at the English FA, obviously doing a good job. Very few of them are actually involved, including yourself, David, in top level coaching anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I've touched on this before because it's a great point. Now, why is that? Why is that? You look at, say, the lads in the media. There's an awful lot of lads in the media, even going back to, say, Andy Townsend or Ray Houghton, or that would be the way that a lot of the lads would go. And I don't know, is it because they're smarter than the average bear? I don't know. Maybe Definitely. They think that who would go into that sort of game? As Shane will tell you, where you're sort of you could last sort of. What's a long term plan? 6 games. What's a short term? 4 games. That could be it. However, I don't really know is the answer, and it wouldn't be anything to do with just say money, right? As if you don't need to work. All those lads would have done very, very well in life, but you would still want to get up in the morning and go and do something, But for whatever reason, they haven't chosen.
Did you do many of your coaching badges, David?
Yeah, I did all. I
the whole way.
I had my pro license the year I retired. So
did you? Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's fairly unheard of now. That's unusual.
Yeah, I mean, I did my B license with. I used Sunderland's youth team and the future Champions League winner Jordan Henderson. He was one of my guinea pigs. Stop, stand still. Yeah. So that was in 2007 or.
You did, anyway. Did you do it through the FAI or the FA?
The FA. I did it through the FA.
Okay.
Yeah. Because when you're playing in England, they say, do it with your local FA. That's what they say. But I know that there's a few of the lads who Kenny Cunningham, for example, Kenny did it with the FAI. Yeah. But Kenny was probably over and back to Ireland a little bit more than I was.
Kenny's not a bad example as well, David, because I don't know if anyone listening in can correct me on how many of those 23 people I mentioned are actually managing a team at the moment, as in a senior team. I think it might only be Damien Duff. But Kenny, I remember talking to Kenny when he was starting here, and he'd been mooted as a possible that was maybe the Shell job at the time, but he gave me the impression he was interested in getting into management, but he hasn't since anyway, or at least he hasn't to my knowledge. And maybe he's kind of gotten comfortable. Maybe you come into sort of media positions as well, and you start to like it. There's very little pressure compared to the fact that management now is essentially such a basket case position where you have this situation at Leeds as well.
It is, but by the same token, it leaves you with an empty feeling. It's hard to explain. It's a very empty feeling that, you feel like it's just not enough. But by the same token, when is it going to be enough? Because there's lads like Stephen, for example, Stephen Reid. Stephen Reid's a good mate of mine. Stephen, coached numerous clubs, coached with Scotland, and eventually has stepped away for whatever reason. Now it could be away from the family, football 24/7, 7 days a week. Whatever it may be, he stepped away. Lee Carsley didn't want the cut and thrust of a first team environment. Wanted the sort of development
picture
side, the development side. And away from the pressure. But so it's hard to it's hard to sort of put your finger on it. Apart from,
it's interesting to hear you say the phrase it can leave you empty. Like, I'm not usually one for Americanized slogans or that kind of stuff, but I do firmly believe in the phrase pressure is a privilege. Like, to me, if I don't wake up on a Monday morning and there's some element of competition in my week, or some element of you're going to be under pressure at that one, Shane, this is serious kind of stuff. There has to be something like that in my week to, get the juices going, I suppose,
Yeah, exactly. Otherwise you just die. And sometimes that's how I feel. Sometimes I feel like that, and I think, maybe I should do this, maybe I should do that, And I think it's something that when you finish playing, if you've got the inclination to do it, you'll always struggle with it. If you don't and you'd rather do something else, then that's like Ben White apparently doesn't like football, does he? Or doesn't watch football, So you get some of those lads, but then you get others, you just think, well, maybe you're worried about failing. Because when you're a player, right? When you're a player, no matter what you say, it is in your own hands. I used to feel it's in my own hands. If I go to bed, look after, eat well, train as hard as I can, I'm in control of 80% of my future, and what will be will be. And I think as a manager, you probably lose an awful lot of that, and maybe that's the determining factor for a lot of lads. Go, the lack of control here to make it a success. Am I willing to pay the price?
Who's the best coach you ever played under?
Because just quickly on that, it's a really important point,
Yeah.
Because I was talking to the PFA in England, right, who look after the players in England, and they said to me this week, because I went to a chat with the sort of sporting director of Wolves, put on about how Wolves are run these days. It's fascinating. But anyway, the PFA lad said to me, "There's no top players doing their badges now. No top players." And he said, "I just can't get them to do it. I don't know why." And I said, "Well, that's a surprise." And you think, well, why are the top players not doing it? And then I think I put a thing on Twitter about it, and some people say, they got the money, they don't need this, or they don't need that, or, but ultimately, if you love the game, you'd probably still do your badges and then, be involved in give back somehow. But there just doesn't seem to be the appetite, which is, like I say, I was intent on doing mine and being and making sure I was well on the way by the time I finished, so it is interesting.
I remember the days where you used to, Match and Shoot magazine would have this thing where you'd send out it was done by post, where you basically were a football manager long before computer games and all that. And I was thinking, God, this would be the coolest thing ever. And I've always loved the idea of picking players and buying players and all that. But I don't know, the more you look at it, maybe it's the game now, JD. And Shane was showing me goals last night from Y-Scout that all of this stuff is available now, the data. But it's so intense and there's so much going on, so much analysis, so much training every day, so much going on behind the scenes, so much delegating. It's not like Brian Clough and Peter Taylor anymore. I don't know, David, maybe
just got to interrupt there. Manchester City 1, Leeds United 0. Ilkay Gundogan with the goal.
Yeah, it's a typical City goal. They managed to work their way to the end line and then cut it back from the end line, and he just strokes it home into the bottom corner. It's interesting actually looking up at Big Sam there.
Chewing the gum.
He's in discussion with Carl, so he is trying to figure out how they got in so easily. But look at City. But one thing that I was actually going to raise with David there, it kind of goes back to my point about Robbie Keane. And Big Sam is somebody who has done it. I've often been surprised, David, that there hasn't been more specialist positional coaches within setups, particularly at levels like Premier League, where money is no issue. Like at League of Ireland, look, I'd love to have a specialist defensive coach, a specialist finishing coach, and so on in the way that you've got a specialist goalkeeping coach, but the money just doesn't allow it. But at Premier League level, where money is no object, and that's why I ask whether Robbie could coach. Like, let's say, surely a guy like you, if somebody came to you that you got on well with, say from your playing days, they were managing David, and they said, listen, I want you to come in and I want you to put on 2 sessions a week with our number 9s, the 2 or 3 number 9s we have in the side, and maybe the 2 or 3 number 9s that we've got at under 23 level. Like, I think there'd be massive benefit from from that. I think I said to you before, Johnny, when I was at Galway, we had a brilliant player called Ronan Murray, and Ronan was more experienced, had been to England, had had a decent career over there, maybe 10 years in England, and we had a young fella coming through called Pádraig Cunningham, and Ronan came over to me at the end of a session one day and he says, listen, he says, the other lad is doing a lot of things wrong, he's got such raw potential, but he's doing a lot of things wrong. Do you mind if I grab him for 10 or 15 minutes here and just show him a couple of things on the movements? And I says, geez, Ron, that'd be brilliant, go on, fire away. And it made me think there's a hell of a lot to be got from a specialist coach zoning in on players like that, David. Like, I would have thought somebody like you would be brilliant at something like that.
Yeah, look, I'll give you a couple of examples, right? Years ago, I was at St George's Park where the English FA is, right? And I was doing one of my courses there, and the England team were there. And so I ended up bumping into Adam Lallana, right? Because I played with Adam. So I started talking to him about how things were going, Liverpool and all this. Anyway, he told me if he wanted to work on his game, right, Liverpool have got X amount of players. They play X amount of every 3 days, right? Even Liverpool do not have the time or the staff to go through individual players. And you know what? If you're not at the top of your game, right, then they'll get someone else. Yeah. So the onus was on him, and he mentioned, say, Jordan Henderson, that they went and got their clips and they worked through with the analysts to try and improve. And I thought, wow, that's really telling, because this is Liverpool, right? But then you take it even further. Another friend of mine who I played with, he actually is now employed by Premier League strikers to go through their clips and put on different sessions, and they pay him on a pro rata basis.
This is nothing to do with the club. This isn't like almost like an individual arrangement. Yeah,
brilliant.
Exactly. Now, a lot of these lads now will have a chef, they'll have this, they'll have that, and they'll also go, well, you know what? If someone can help me score an extra 5 goals, it might be worth an extra, however much. But, so whether clubs would do it or whether, in some ways, I think I did a little bit of that when I was working at Bristol City. And in the end, I just thought, it's not quite enough for me, because it's such a small element. How does the ball get from there to there?
Yeah.
And I'd want to work on that. And then the actual finishing bit, I'm not a massive fan of shooting at like cones or mannequins. I'm more game related, and so I'd end up doing something that really I probably wouldn't want to do if I had complete control over it or autonomy over it. So it is interesting, but and there's no doubt. Lads now know if I score an extra 10 goals, I could be worth X or I could get Y. And how am I going to do that? Well, those that have the inkling about how to do it might go and employ someone to do it, or to make sure they stay at that top club so they get that extra contract that is worth X amount, because you're investing in yourself, really.
Got goals in the Premier League. Wolves 1, Aston Villa 0. Totti with the goal there, and we've also got 1-1 now. Chelsea did take the lead at Bournemouth through Conor Gallagher, but Bournemouth have equalised through Matthias Viña. That's subject to VAR. Just on what you're saying there, David, so it's almost like the top players, the world stars who are on huge money, almost maybe feel that coaching's too much of a hassle to get involved in going forward.
But maybe. I mean, look, I can't speak for them, but it was. I was surprised. Like I said, I was at this presentation, and there was 10 or so people there, and different coaches and stuff like that. And just at the end, you're talking to them about how things are going in the coaching department, and not many, in their eyes, like top, the players from the top, i.e. Premier League or maybe Championship, top, those leagues are getting and doing their qualifications. You think, now there is a fine line, right? Because I'm completely against doing your coaching badges while you're in your career. You should be 100% focused on your career, because you shouldn't be coaching kids when you could be doing something to make yourself better as a player, in my mind.
Do you reckon?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you not need a release though?
You get one career. You get one career, and you could be doing a few. I've spoken to so many players. I'm like, why you focus on your career? You get one career. Focus on your career. Get another year on your career. Why finish at 35? Because you could have finished at 38. That was my philosophy. And you could do the badges, but you do them in the summer when you got absolutely nothing on. You don't need to go and that's me. Some people might be different, but I would always I've said to people, just get the most out of your career first, because you get one career, you got plenty of time. You don't want to be one of those lads who gives up playing because they think, maybe I'll be a better coach.
De Bruyne came back into the sorry to interrupt, David. De Bruyne came back into the City team today, and he just got 2 players fouled him there from the least. Like, City are absolutely on top of this. They're 1-0 up through Gundogan. Haaland just missed a sitter to make it 2. It looks like there's only going to be one winner today out of this one.
Yeah, just in another member, obviously, of that Ireland kind of squad type era was Colin Healy, who left Cork City this week. He was, to paraphrase with Nil Nye, he was kind of, Colin Healy was probably a manager by mistake in a way, and I think I'm not even sure he ever really wanted the job, but he and Tim Clancy in the League of Ireland, these lads, certainly the likes of Tim Clancy, he's not a millionaire, like, so when they lose their job, this is very, very real. It's not like a Premier League lad, Premier League manager losing his job, and we've had a relatively quiet time in the League of Ireland so far this season, but 2 managers gone, I think, one day after the other, and I don't know what you might have Shane. I wasn't totally surprised by either, but at the same time, you're like, what happened?
Yeah, I was surprised by Tim's one, to be honest with you. I think I'm right in saying 7 days previous to him being sacked, they were
second.
Was it?
They were second at one point, and then they might.
They're back up again. They won last night as well.
Like it's madness. It's so tight between.
That's what I was thinking last night when I was watching the Jonathan Afolabi penalty. That wasn't.
But this is the margins.
But these are the big. These you got to get these decisions right.
Yeah.
We can't afford VAR in the League of Ireland.
Yeah. See, well, actually, the first goal I think was offside as well. Actually, so there were 2 decisions VAR would 100% have given.
2-0 to Manchester City, and it looks like it's Gundogan again. Comes into the team today. Ilkay Gundogan, the man who he won the title last year, didn't he? And look, Big Sam, the gum is not being chewed anymore. It's Manchester City 2, Leeds 0.
It's funny then with Tim Clancy. Like, Tim Clancy brought John Daly in, and John Daly, like, had a good career. He was ex-Rangers, but ended up then in Scandinavia, but came in under Tim's guidance, and now is taken over in an interim or possibly indefinite spell. And it's funny the way it works, but I don't know. It's a difficult one for Tim Clancy now, where he goes from this.
It's almost like Gundogan has been in the D twice and has got the ball.
Same goal.
Yeah, and different corner this time.
He takes a touch and goes opposite side, but he's in the exact same position, isn't he?
What a player.
David Connolly, are they going to do this treble? Are they going to beat Real?
Geez, I mean, I'd probably say that they're going to come very, very close. It's just how you stop that front three, I think, for Real. I think that's obviously the key to the game. But yeah, it's they're class. Obviously, a few changes today. He's left out Grealish. Foden's come in. Gundogan, 2 great goals. Just seeing it here, arriving on the edge of the box. Great intelligence here, right? Because the keeper's already gone near for the first one, and then he just reverses it across him. And I tell you, did you see this week Pickford and Maddison?
Yeah.
Did you see any of that game?
Yeah, Monday night.
Monday night. This is why you can't shoot him at mannequins. You talk about a striker guy. I tell you why. Because the goalkeeper there, if you look at that second goal, which those listeners might not know, but the keeper hasn't moved because the keeper is half thinking he went near last time, and as he's reversed it across him, he's gone, I'm never getting there. And that's because his previous one, he went near post. Now, did you see Pickford and Maddison, right? It was fascinating because a massive game that was, right? That was a massive game. And the fine margins here, Maddison had 2 shots early doors. And both of them, because Pickford must have faced him in training for England hundreds of times, he knew exactly where he's going both times. I thought it was amazing, and he was reading his body language and his shoulders and his arms and how he approached the ball, how he racked it. For the penalty, I actually said it in commentary. I said he's read him twice already, because I was working on the game, and then he didn't move for the penalty. I know he had the stats and he had the dates down, but I think that is why I'm loath to do any of this striker shoot round mannequins or because it's. And it reminded me of a game actually when I was at Wigan. We played Newcastle when Shea Given was in goal, right? And Shea saved. Well, Shea would save everything anyway, right? Because he was an incredible goalkeeper. But it just reminded me of that. And then we got a penalty in that game, and I'm thinking, I've played with Shea since we made our debut, so probably like 8-10 years. And I'm thinking, geez, where do I put this now? Because he's read everything, and it does get into your head psychologically, and that's the sort of the battle that these players are having at this level. You've seen Gundogan score 2. We saw Maddison be read by Pickford, and it just cast my mind back to that game.
Come on, give us the punchline, David. Did you score or did he save it?
No. Well, yeah, it went in, but it obviously it just reminded me of that, because you would face a goalkeeper and he would know where you were going, and that's why you can't be shooting around too many cones or too many mannequins. It has to be game related.
On the penalties, how good was McAllister the other night? I thought he was absolute coolness personified. Did you see how long he took, JD?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I don't know
if he scored in the World Cup final, but they were brilliant in the World Cup, Argentina, at the penalties.
I just thought it was brilliant. He just settled everything down, all the shenanigans that was after going on. He just took the sting out of the whole thing by waiting so long, because it made me think back. Do you remember the Harry Kane ones in the World Cup? Remember there was a
big delay for Lloris.
But he retook. He took one earlier. What was it? He took one during the match and scored, wasn't it? Then took one in penalty shootout and missed, right? And during the match, he picked up the ball and reset it, and then put the ball in the back of the net. And then in the penalty shootout, he didn't pick up the ball and reset it. He left it where it was. And I was like, it's worked perfectly for you the first time. Why have you not repeated the exact same process? And McAllister just looked like a guy to me who had a process.
Right.
This wasn't made up on the spot. He had a process. He knew, I don't know whether it was breathing techniques or visualization or what he was using, but he looked like a guy who had a process. And I love process. Less room for error.
David Connolly, your book now is going to be a bestseller on Amazon. You can't shoot at mannequins.
Bearing in mind, I actually bought my own mannequins and I've got them in the garden. So, I'm a bit of a hypocrite there, but yeah, I think as you get older and more, you realise that you don't have the time to, or if you do, you end up ruining your body by shooting.
How do you go about buying mannequins?
Yeah, you don't buy them, you steal them.
I've got a couple you can have if you want to pay the.
We're okay. Bournemouth 1, Chelsea 1, Manchester City 2, Leeds 0, Spurs 0, Crystal Palace 0, Wolves 1, Aston Villa 0 in the Premier League. So City fans chanting, "You're getting sacked in the morning," a Big Sam. It was really only 3 games he was given. I mean, they weren't going to win this one, were they? So Joe McDonagh Cup, Laois 110, Kildare 4 points at O'Moore Park. Have Arsenal done this season then, David Connolly? I mean, will they feel bitterly disappointed if they don't win the title, or will they feel like, I suppose, you sometimes you have to seize it when it's there for you,
Yeah, exactly. And I think it looks like it's gone now, doesn't it? So, I mean, there's the couple of games, the Liverpool one, probably where they I thought they were really good first half, and then, probably didn't get the third goal, and then second half Liverpool came back. The West Ham one, 2-1 up, Saka missed a pen. And you obviously got a lot. You got a long time in the season anyway. But it just seemed like those games really, whether it's pressure, they really damaged them an awful lot. And this City side is relentless. So I think unfortunately, for them, they're not going to win it this season.
Got to take a break here. David Connolly, Johnny Ward and Shane Keegan on Football Saturday. If you want to text us, you can, 53106, or you can tweet us at Off The Ball. We're back after this.
Football on Off The Ball.
With Sky. Don't miss Nottingham Forest versus Southampton on Monday Night Football. Live only on Sky Sports.
This is News Talk. Talking History.
This Sunday on Talking History, we're looking at the life, death and legacy of the first English monarch to bear the name Charles, and we'll be finding out how he ended up losing his throne and his head.
So this is the first cross-confessional marriage in early modern Europe.
Talking History with Patrick Gagan.
This Sunday at 7 p.m.
on News Talk. Conversation that counts.
For Bridget Price, the road to love was not so straightforward.
Bridgie, I forbid you from marrying that spendthrift youth, Miles Cobh.
What the devil is that? I'm setting up an M50 video account on my mobile cellular telephone, thus procuring a discount on the M50 highway toll path.
Very prudent, Mr. Carr. It seems I've misjudged you.
eFlow presents Accounts and Accountability. Pay your tolls automatically and get a discount with a free M50 video tolling account at eflow.ie.
He was a great one for stories. He'd have everyone in stitches. He was the one we all depended on. The one we all wanted to be. When it came to Dad's last journey, it had to be special. That's why we're glad we chose Fannigan's.
At Fannigan's, every funeral is unique and deserves all our care and attention. That's how we've provided excellence in funeral care for over 200 years. Fannigan's, incorporating Carnegie's, Nichols and Kerwin's funeral directors. When your thoughts are with them, ours are with you.
Because you've enough to be worrying about, we've launched Toyota Relax, our new service-activated warranty. Whether you bought your Toyota from us, a classified ad, or your auntie, once it's less than 10 years old with under 185,000 kilometres, you'll get a 12-month warranty with every Toyota service. There's no catch. You don't even need to have serviced with us before. For more, search Toyota Relax. Toyota, built for a better world. Terms and conditions apply.
Right now at B&Q, get 20% off garden furniture and 20% off barbecues. Get your garden ready for summer living so you can eat, chill, play, repeat all summer long. Shop in store or at DIY.ie. You can do it. Exclusions and terms and conditions apply. Ends 8th of May. See DIY.ie for details.
Witness greatness live from the players you love with Sky Sports from Virgin Media. Virgin Media customers get an exclusive front row seat to unmissable moments by adding Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports for just €30 a month for 6 months. That's better than half price. Be part of every game with Virgin Media. It's playtime.
6-month offer, €74 a month after offer. T's and C's apply. See virginmedia.ie.
Once again, thousands of people all over Ireland came together for Darkness into Light. So however you marked the most important sunrise of the year for those affected by suicide, Electric Ireland and Pieta want to thank you. There's still time to donate at darknessintolight.ie. Proudly supported by Electric Ireland.
What's red, white and costs between €8 to €12? Every wine in Centre's exclusive Wines We Love range. That's what. There's over 10 to choose from. Old favourites like Don Simon Sauv Blanc or a Pata Negra. And soon to be new favourites too, like Unjoran Rosé or an Ocho y Medio Malbec. Feels to me it sounds like time to pop into Ireland's largest off-licence. Centra. Live every day. Enjoy alcohol responsibly.
An evening with Lionel Richie. Performing all the hits all night long. St. Anne's Park, June 4th. With very special guests, the Human League. Tickets $69.90 on sale now from Ticketmaster.ie. Additional charges may apply, subject to licence. Lionel Richie, live in Dublin. Tickets on sale now.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky, catch West Ham versus Man United this Sunday. Live only on BT Sport.
This is News Talk.
And you're welcome back to Off the Ball Saturday here on News Talk. John Duggan with you 3 to 5. This is Football Saturday. Remember, Football and Off the Ball brought to you by Sky. Watch every live Premier League game this season on Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports. You can text us 53106. Tweet us at Off the Ball. Listen across the country on your radio and News Talk. Also watch us on the Off the Ball digital and social channels on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. We also podcast the show on Off the Ball section of the Go Loud network. It's also available wherever you get your pods. Joined on the line by the former Republic of Ireland striker David Connolly, and in studio by the Cobh Ramblers boss Shane Keegan and the broadcaster and journalist Johnny Ward. 2-0 to Manchester City against Leeds in the Premier League. Gundogan with both goals. Bournemouth 1, Chelsea 1. So Gallagher putting Chelsea in front of Vigna, equalising for the Cherries down at the Vitality Stadium. Spurs 0, Palace 0. Wolves 1, Aston Villa 0. Important goal there for Wolves from Totti. Also in sport today we have Women's National League in the SSE Electricity Women's Premier Division. Bohemians 1, Sligo Rovers 0 at Dennyman Park. DLR Waves and Wexford Youths kick off at 4. The Stormers lead the Bulls 17-7 in the ORC quarter-finals in South Africa. In the John McDonough Cup Round 4, Laois 1-11, Kildare 6 points at O'Moore Park. And we have the 2,000 guineas going to Post Newmarket at 4 o'clock, with Sligo playing Kerry in the under-20 football semi-final at Pearse Stadium at 4:45. Just wanted to ask you, we're talking a lot about coaching, David Connolly, in the last half hour. Who's the best coach you ever played under? Can you say?
I don't know. I mean, there's been a few. Terry Burton was really good. Terry was at Wimbledon. He was at Arsenal for years and years. He was excellent, and also Stuart Robson alongside him. They were really good. Kenny Jackett was my youth team manager. He was excellent. I know Kenny then went on and was a league manager for a long time. Who else? In Holland, Bert van Marwijk, he was good. Good.
Bert van Marwijk?
He was good.
The Dutch coach from 2010, and they got them to the World Cup final.
Yeah, he was good. Yeah, that guy. Yeah, he was. He was
That's the one. Just reeling off names here from out of the clouds.
No. I mean, geez, I'd say as a coach, Terry Burton was very, very good. I'd say, might be one of my best, or Kenny Jackett above Bert van Marwijk but I'm just saying, as a coach, he was also good. But I was a bit older then, and probably a different outlook on things. But yeah, there's I'm probably leaving like loads out now. But yeah,
you got to ask your old buddy Roy Keane, does he want the Cork City job now? It's the job that's, that he's been waiting for.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, look, Robbie's back in. I'm sure Roy is but I don't know. I don't know whether that's going to happen now. Well, he's at the snooker the other day, wasn't he?
He was. He always struck me as a fella who'd like snooker now. So he did. I wasn't surprised to see him there at all.
Hey, I got to find out. I tell you this story, right? Because years ago at Sunderland, years ago we had a day off or whatever, and I came down to London and I went to an auction to buy a flat, right? And I bought a flat at an auction, but at the auction was Homes Under the Hammer. You know the Homes Under the Hammer, the show. You buy a house or whatever, and they're there filming. And so they came up to me after and they said, would you go on the show? And I said, no. I said, well, you get a few £100, you buy you a set of taps or whatever. And I was like, no. I said, no, you're okay. I mean, I'm fine. But anyway, cut long story short, I also was trying to buy this other thing and I didn't, but someone else bought this other flat, right? And he obviously agreed to go on the show. Yeah. So then, like, a few months later, this Homes Under the Hammer appears and there's me on the programme, and I'm thinking, I shouldn't be on this programme. I didn't buy anything. But because I was bidding against him, I was in it because the camera kept panning to me and to him. So anyway, a few months later went by, right, and I went into training one day and Roy was there. He goes, Dave, yeah, what the bloody hell are you doing on Homes Under the Hammer? I said, what? And he goes, what are you doing on Homes Under the Hammer? And I was like, oh my God. I said, what are you doing watching Homes Under the Hammer? Anyway,
right back at you.
Yeah, so even Roy watches a bit of daytime TV,
Or somebody to watch it for him.
Well, I wasn't happy with you. You should be staying out of the limelight.
You can't do anything in this life without somebody knowing about it.
Yeah, that was funny, but yeah, I'm sure he's watching probably a bit too much daytime TV even now. I'm sure he'd rather be in the game,
You do wonder, you're on about like you missed the buzz, like does he, I mean it might be his last chance, but surely apart from wants that one last chance. What do you think, Shane?
I don't know. Well, yeah, I suppose the fighter, the competitor in him. Let's look, whatever about the management side of things, let's be honest, he's absolutely brilliant for TV, isn't he?
Is he the top pundit?
He's superb
in football.
He's super. Look, I think.
I suppose just for his uniqueness, whether you can say, well, Gary Neville or Gallagher for analysis.
Yeah. And to be fair to Sky, they've struck the absolute perfect balance. I know the boys on the Sunday pay-per-view last Sunday had a bit of a conversation around punditry and that, and I think they touched on this. Like, Sky have the balance bang on. Like, to me, the brilliantly withering one-liners that Roy can deliver as only Roy can.
Do your job.
It's just brilliant, but it has to be, it has to be counteracted then by the Neville and Carragher stuff where they go really heavy on the detail and they really do, you know, kind of bore down into what is happening on the pitch and that. But it's gas because, like, it's kind of a thing where you'd imagine the two boys have slaved away all day Monday preparing these clips for a Monday Night Football segment and that, and they have it planned to the nth detail. And it's brilliant, to be fair to them. I would listen to them forever. I think they're top class. But then the other lad just steals the show with a one-liner that's completely off the top of his head. Like it's a great balance there. It really, he's brilliant for TV. I don't know, could he be tempted away from that again? He probably could, because the competitor in him would want to show that he can still do it, you know.
And he wouldn't lose his TV job or stature. The Cork City job, I've always thought it would be amazing, and Roy would come in. Can you imagine like Cork City playing Shells and it's Roy Keane against Damien Duff? Like, but Colin Healy, like, he was a big name, and he just decided that enough was enough, you know. And it's a lot of pressure even at League of Ireland level. And as I say, like, League of Ireland lads are not leaving with 2 million payoffs.
Yeah. You were on TV once, weren't you? You know, was it David Connolly on Hums and the Hammer? Were you on some reality show?
No experience required. I finished third, which comes right after.
What's the show about?
It was mad. I was actually, I started to work. I think I was working in Setanta at the time, and a mate of mine, Julian, who Shane would know, he was in this kind of dead-end bank job, even though Julian was so good at maths that he'd watched the movie How to Cheat the Leaving Cert, and apparently one of the things in the movie was that you did some of your maths exam in Roman numerals, and he did honours maths in the Leaving, and he was so bored during the exam that he did one of the questions in Roman numerals. And the story goes, I don't know if you've done honours maths, JD, but I was not.
I did pass maths. It's the only pass subject I did.
Just throwing that in there, you know. Everything else was honours.
Everything else was A's.
It was an anomaly, actually. Yeah. But I did honours maths, and I found it tough.
Narcissism.
And we'll get to your narcissism. But so I struggled with honours maths, but Julian was very good on his maths, and but like. He was big into kind of betting and being at that, but how do you get a job with a bookmaker? So he was in this dead-end job in AIB. By the way, sorry, when he was doing the Leaving Cert, the examiner gave him an A2 because he thought, like, you're taking the PISS here, like, so he got a check and he got an A1. But anyway, that was grand. So he texts me, he's like, we should go for this show and give it a go, no experience required. And it was 6 different topics, I think, where you'd get a sponsor who would come in, and at the end of it, the sponsor would get an employee. So in this instance, it was Paddy Power would get an odds compiler. And I finished third, but Julian finished first anyway. So he came out of this dead-end bank job, and he's been in the bookmaking industry ever since. And that's probably about close to 20 years ago.
Not every job in a bank is dead-end.
His was definitely, like, he was doing a lot of like photocopying and that sort of stuff. Although I wonder how much he's doing actually in his day job now. But anyway, so I finished third, and I know some of the characters that were involved.
It was a bit like The Apprentice, was it kind of thing?
Yeah, and the funny thing was, Paddy Power isn't here to say why it wanted to do this, but I think Paddy Power did it thinking it was free publicity in effect. They did a bit of filming. Julian was a brilliant, he's actually a brilliant worker. He was perfect for the job. And then Paddy Power sort of changed and he moved on. But yeah, and I was at home recently, and my sister was like, you need to clear out that room. And I found the VHS. Like, I've actually found the VHS of the show, so we're going to try and put
probably
it on.
Haven't aged a day.
But I actually haven't in a mental sense. But yeah, so that was it. Like, I was.
So people are saying to you, well, it's more about like whatever the show is. It's more about people saying, "Oh, you're on the TV. I saw you on the TV."
Yeah, he was getting people who'd seen the show in like Argentina and all. And then I used to be on nights out with Julian, and like after the 8th person I'd come up, oh, well done. I'd go in like, sorry, I was actually on the show as well. I finished third. Second comes right after first. But it was mad. It was great fun. And Paddy Power got this guy who was there for 20 years afterwards. Yeah.
Listeners out there, have you ever been on TV in an unusual way? You can text us at 53106. 53106. Mick and Cork lads was at the Cork City game last night. Much improved first half. Fitness levels proved to be lacking in the second half. Hopefully new manager and a few transfers in the summer, and we'll stay up. Keen in.
Yeah,
Nick, so, it is going to be very interesting to see what they do, because
if you canvass Cork City fans, how many of them would want Roy Keane? Like,
I'm sure they all would.
They'd probably, there is a better candidate, but they'd want Roy.
Well, he can't get the Cobh job because
although he's always at Cobh games.
He's waiting in the wings.
Harry Kane has scored for Spurs 1-0. They lead Palace at home at half time. Wolves 1, Villa 0 at the break. Man City 2, Leeds 0. Not a great start for Big Sam, but would you expect anything different? Bournemouth 1, Chelsea 1. These games in the top flight of England?
The Cobh job, JD, as long as Cork City are in the Premier Division, a lot of it is reliant on looking at Cork players that want to get football, so bring them down to Cobh. It's literally 20 minutes away or whatever. So Shane would be ringing up Roy Keane. Would you give me a player or two there, Roy? Come on, I'm good for... Imagine it, imagine the crack. And you'd be relaying these stories then ad lib here on a Saturday.
Yeah,
probably not. Don't watch Holmes and the Hammer.
Yeah, you heard it here first. Roy Keane for Cork City, yeah.
David Connolly, I'm just looking at the clubs here at the bottom. They're all as bad as each other. Leicester, Everton, Leeds, who are going to lose again today. Forest. Who do you think's going down with Southampton?
Well, a few weeks ago, probably a couple of months ago, I said Leeds. So I don't think I can take that back now. I'll probably stick with Leeds. Can Everton get out of it? I mean, I don't know. They showed a little bit of fight against Leicester the other day. I'd say maybe I go with Leeds and Forest, I think, and maybe Everton can get out of it, But it's. I think Leicester will. I think West Ham obviously are fine.
Yeah.
And then it's probably 3 from those 4, I reckon. Well, it's hard to say Leicester will be okay because obviously they're right down there. But I think Vardy's back, Maddison's back.
Yeah,
and Barnes,
they should have the players.
They're all fit. Yeah, they're all fit. Yeah.
Would you be worried for Gavin Bazunu being dropped recently?
Yeah, I would. And I don't want to say I told you so, and I know it all, but when he went there, I said it immediately on, online. He's going into a club that is in chaos, really, it won't do him. I don't think it will do him any harm in terms of playing in the Championship every week. But he was just going into a difficult club that was going to go through change, and I just, whether that was really put to him clearly enough before he went there. I'm not saying he would have done anything different, but it was a club that was going to go through an awful lot of change, and look, he's done well. He's also maybe made some mistakes, as all young goalkeepers will, but nonetheless, I think he'll do very well. And even if he does, go down into the Championship, he hasn't actually played a season in the Championship, and that will probably do him the world of good because he's still only 20 or whatever, 21 or whatever.
So would you choose the season he's had or that of Kelleher?
Yeah. No, yeah, obviously you choose to play. You definitely choose to play. What I'm saying is whether at that time there might have been another club that would be less
chaotic.
I guess, there'd be less turmoil. But absolutely, go absolutely go and play. But I just think, they've had a lot of change at the back. They're one of the youngest teams in the league. I mean, there's been so many games where that whole defensive unit in front of Gavin has completely changed. But I'm sure he'll say, well, he could have done maybe, there's a couple of things he might have done better himself. But he's a young kid learning the game. But he was going into a club that Ralph was never going to last the season there. Nathan Jones coming in was a disaster. And they played every different way. Ruben Sellers is not the answer either. So there's probably going to be a new manager next season for Gavin. But fingers crossed, he's a manager that sticks with him. I mean, why Ruben is taking him out the team? It just doesn't make any sense, to be honest. If you're going down, which they are going to go down, I don't think that's ever going to change. You stick with the goalkeeper that you've bought, that you've invested in as a young player, and you see it through. And he comes out the other side. I hate this when they take like lads out the firing line as if he's culpable, when really, they knew they were getting a young goalkeeper who's got a bit like Meslier, right? Who's young, but very, very good. Might make the odd mistake because they're young, but I think Saint should have stuck with him. I mean, it hasn't worked playing McCarthy instead of him either. So
Yeah, and Meslier was dropped today for Joel Robles, but it hasn't prevented Manchester City from scoring twice.
Exactly.
In the Premier League against Leeds at half-time there. Bournemouth won, Chelsea won, half-time Spurs won, Palace 0. I don't know. Wolves won, Villa 0 in that game as well at Molineux in Scotland. in the Championship group. Hibernian 2, St Mirren 0 in the relegation group. Motherwell 1, Kilmarnock 0, Ross County 1, Livingston 0, St Johnstone 1, Dundee United 0. Just some scores elsewhere from other codes. In the Joe McDonagh Cup round 4, Laois 117, Kildare 8 points. And we also have the DHL Stormers 20, the Volacom Bulls 7 in the rugby. And in the Women's Premier Division, Bohemians 1, Sligo Rovers 0, with the match between DLR Waves and Wexford Youths just kicking off at the UCD Bowl. We got David Connolly, we got Johnny Ward, we got Shane Keegan, we got Football Saturday until 5. If you want to get in touch, you can. 53106. We're back after the news.
We're hitting the streets with a new fleet of electric vehicles thanks to our exciting partnership with Volkswagen. Make the change to all-electric driving with the best-selling ID4 from Volkswagen, official car partner of Newstalk.
Selling your home? A Daft Advantage ad is the best way to sell your home in Ireland. By choosing a Daft Advantage ad, you guarantee unbeatable visibility, attract more buyers and get the best price for your home. Get the best price for your home for as little as €99. Ask your estate agent to upgrade your ad to a Daft Advantage ad today.
From family breaks to city escapes, summer starts with Go Breaks. Discover our best Irish and European hotel deals now at gobreaks.ie.
Go Breaks. Rock against homelessness in aid of Focus Ireland. Live at 3 Olympia Theatre, Friday, May 26th. Lyra performing a full set, plus Amy, Tosheen, Pastiche, Bobby Arlo, Jack O'Rourke, May Kay and Isaac Butler. Hosted by Laura Whitmore. Don't miss Rock Against Homelessness. Tickets from €27 on sale now. Additional charges may apply.
Harvey Norman are your sofa specialists with incredible savings on sofas in stock and ready for quick delivery. Like the Zinc Corner Fabric Sofa, now just €1,099, saving you an incredible €300. Or get the Falcon Faux Leather Recliner, now just $799, saving you €200. And with up to 36 months interest-free finance available, why wait? Get it now. Shop these sofa deals and so much more in-store and online at Harvey Norman, your sofa specialists.
Go!
Hi, I'm Joanne Bregan. I was a nurse but wanted to go into teaching, so I did the postgraduate diploma in education practice at NCI. The course was excellent, and everything I learned there, I definitely use now in my teaching career. When I see myself now, I see living proof that NCI really helped me find my path.
On Wednesday, May 10th from 5 to 7 p.m, join us for NCI's online open evening and learn about our full and part-time courses in business, computing, psychology and education. To register, visit ncirl.ie.
Everyone kept telling us that summer is a lovely time to have a baby, but my little one was born 6 weeks early. She gets neonatal blood transfusions. They really help. She's a fighter. Someday soon we'll get to bring her home. That'll be really lovely.
We never get to choose when to need blood, but we can choose when to give. Visit giveblood.ie. We count on you.
For car insurance, van insurance or home insurance, call the Quote Devil. Unless, of course, you've got money to burn.
The Quote Devil's always got one hell of a quote.
Quote Devil Limited is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Witness greatness live from the players you love with Sky Sports from Virgin Media. Virgin Media customers get an exclusive front row seat to unmissable moments by adding Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports for just €30 a month for 6 months. That's better than half price. Be part of every game with Virgin Media. It's playtime.
6-month offer, €74 a month after offer. T's and C's apply. See virginmedia.ie.
Here at Newstalk, we've got some exciting original podcasts. Here's a snippet from Let Me Explain with Sean Defoe, an entertaining weekly series that deep dives into current affairs.
If we did have to don the gas masks, just how bad would it be?
If a 100 megaton bomb were dropped over the GPO, for example, everything in Dublin between Ballymun and Dundrum would be vaporised. Most homes would collapse and fires would rip through buildings, with huge fatalities in a further blast radius stretching from Balbriggan to Greystones. Thermal radiation would leave people with third-degree burns in a zone radiating from Dundalk in the north to Mullingar and Portlaoise in the west, and as far down as Gorey in Wexford, while glass windows would shatter as far away as Newry.
we don't have any capacity to monitor our ocean space or our economic area.
This is Senator and security analyst Tom Clonan.
You know, they're saying to the Brits, you know, your anti-missile shield won't work because we'll do this underwater.
To hear the full podcast, go to newstalk.com, the Newstalk app powered by Go Loud, or wherever you get your podcasts. On 106 to 108 FM, on the Newstalk app powered by Go Loud and smart speakers. This is Newstalk.
Good afternoon, the news with Alan Cantwell. Britain's newly crowned king and his family have appeared on the balcony of Buckingham Palace in London. A military flypast to mark King Charles' coronation had to be scaled back due to poor weather. President Michael D. Higgins, the Taoiseach Leo Varadkar were among the 2,300 guests at the ceremony at Westminster Abbey. A number of anti-monarchy activists and members of Just Stop Oil were arrested before the service. Ireland's transportation schemes are unfair and unjust. Independent TD Marion Harkin says successive governments have failed to address the transport needs of people with disabilities. In 2013, the government discontinued the mobility allowance and the motorised transport grant for new applicants. The Sligo Leitrim TD says people were better off 10 years ago.
It's unfair and it's unjust, and most people would not believe that 10, 11 years ago people with disabilities were better off when it came to transportation needs being met. Most people wouldn't believe that. They'd think we've moved on. In fact, we've moved backwards.
The government is being accused of completely neglecting the rural dimension of the housing crisis. The Rural Independent Group of TDs will table a motion in the Dáil next week urging the government to publish new rural planning guidelines and address the huge backlog in onboard Planola. They're also calling for the Help to Buy scheme to be extended to second-hand homes and for a €20,000 grant for first-time builders. More than 70,000 households are going to face a new brown bin charge of around €100 a year. The move by Panda Waste will come into effect on Monday. The recycling company previously had no lift charge for brown bins to encourage customers to put their food waste into the bins. The Social Democrats Party Energy spokesperson Jennifer Whitmore said it's an unfortunate move by the company.
I really do think it is going to stop some people from composting. I think, psychologically it feels that they're being penalised for doing the right thing, and I think that in itself will make people think twice about doing it, and I think that's an unfortunate move.
That's it for now. We'll have more in an hour.
Newstalk weather.
Thanks to Ryanair. June bank haul in Mayo? No thanks. Try Ryanair's low-fare flights to Malaga, Malta or Murcia.
A mix of cloud and sunny spells today, but isolated patches of mist and low cloud may linger near the coast. Scattered, slow-moving showers. Some will be heavy with a chance of thundery downpours and spot flooding. Top temperatures 16 to 18 degrees. And now you're up to date on Newstalk.
Off the ball. This is Newstalk.
And you're welcome back to Off the Ball Saturday here on Newstalk. John Duggan with you through until 5. Remember, Football and Off the Ball brought to you by Sky. Watch every live Premier League game this season on Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports. We've got David Connolly in the line, the former Republic of Ireland striker. And in studio, Johnny Ward, the broadcaster and journalist, and the Cobh Ramblers boss, Shane Keegan. In the Premier League, Manchester City 2, Leeds 0. Spurs 1, Palace 0. Wolves 1, Villa 0. Bournemouth 1, Chelsea 1. David Connolly was telling us how he appeared on Homes Under the Hammer, and Roy Keane sussed him when he was playing for Sunderland, and David wasn't even meant to be on Homes Under the Hammer, but it was a bit of a mad story. When we got asking people like, Johnny Ward was on TV, and asking people like, have you ever been on TV, like maybe for some kind of mad reason. We've got a texter here, a cool one for you. In 1995, a number of us from our running club were brought to a Visa card audition. I got the gig. I was the Visa kid for the 96 Atlanta Olympics. Shot the commercial in Kerry. Pat Laffin played my dad.
That's mad. My TV story, Johnny, is I went to school at Marion College, so just across the road from Ballsbridge, right across the road from Lansdowne Road. And one of my mates in our class, his uncle used to do the door on the stadium. So Ireland used to train the day before in the stadium, and we used to be able to go down and knock on the door, and his uncle had let us in, and we'd go in and watch the Ireland training sessions. There was 2 occasions where we were actually asked to stand behind the goals and run around and kick the balls back out when they were doing shooting practice and stuff, right? So obviously we had to mitch off class to go across to do this, you know.
I recommend it.
No. And went back into class next day, and the next thing announced over the intercom, you know, can Shane Keegan and such 4 names called out, please report to the principal's office. So we're like, well, this can only be one thing, but how did he find out? Like, landed down to the principal's office. He was after spotting the 4 of us on the RTE News that night. O'Neill Donoghue was interviewing somebody, and the 4 of us were standing in the back running around after footballs.
So you think with David Connolly, you're 17 and you're on TV scoring goals, so it's kind of a different thing for you, you know. David there, just a little bit of
You're on mute, David.
Unmute, David.
Oh, sorry, yeah, lad, yeah.
It's funny, I was thinking of, like, Gunnan got the goal there, like, the first goal is the most amazingly beautiful finish, and if I scored a goal like that, I'd turn it on every night I came home from the pub to watch it. David, what was that like when, you know, you're a kid and you're like, God, I'm going to go home now and I'm going to be able to watch this back on TV, and I'm going to see the fan, I'm going to see different angles of it, I'm going to see people celebrating, and I'm going to see it for the first time.
Yeah. I mean, that's what, hey, that wasn't the only TV show I was on, though. I mean, how long we got? When I was in junior school, you know, this TV company came round and they were doing a kids quiz show about films, right? And I'd never watch films because I would just play football, but they had a list of all these films, and I just ticked every film that I'd watched, all of them, you know. And anyway, cut long story short. Guess who gets chosen for the TV quiz show? Yeah, me. So there was 1 boy and 1 girl chosen, and we're up against these other kids from other schools. And look, we went out first round because I didn't know anything about films, but I was on TV, and that was the most important thing.
There's a moral in that story, David. I don't think you have it, but anyway, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's probably not a moral you'd want to tell your kids, but yeah. There we go.
Did you watch yourself back? Like, I mean, the first goal for Ireland, did you watch it back, or did you?
Well, I mean, oh yeah, you'd watch. What was interesting, right? We were talking earlier about that empty feeling. You're saying about Roy Keane getting back into management, the punditry, brilliant at punditry. He will have an empty feeling that he is not doing what he probably wants to do. You know, I think I would guess you have that. You know, you have that kind of empty feeling, and I did a Wolves sort of podcast this week, and I looked back on one of the games. And one thing I took from one of the games about scoring the goals was the joy of scoring a goal. And, you know, I looked at my celebrations, like everyone, you mentioned celebrations earlier, the pure joy that you just don't get in life from anything else, really. Well, you know, you do, but from, you know, that's the thing.
What time is it?
Celebrations are great crack, though. Like, we used to, like, obviously I was playing at no level whatsoever comparing my celebrations to David's, but like, we used to practice them. We actually used to practice them in training. We'd be like, you know, if you had a match coming up on a Saturday, under 13 game coming up on a Saturday, we'd be like, right lads, if we score a good goal, what sort of celebration? We used to
wouldn't have beaten the one last night now.
I definitely wasn't
every single celebration I see in soccer now is sliding to the corner. It does my head in.
You are an old man, kind of shouts at crowds.
Yeah, well, with every week it gets worse.
There was remember the Nigerian boys at one of the World Cups where they all grabbed onto each other's ankles and did the train along, and then there's was the first to do putting the boot up and pretending to shine his shoe and all that kind of crack. There used to be great creativity around them all.
Yeah, the creativity, it's all slides, all sliding to the corner now, every single one of them.
Yeah,
the Icelanders with the fishing hook. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Klinsmann for us, John, when he arrived in the Premier League.
Diving,
taking the
Did you have any special celebrations, David Connolly?
No, I nothing creative. There was no cartwheels or anything like that, and no, I'm ashamed to say. I mean, the diving to the corners. I'm sure there was a few games in lockdown where there was no fans in the crowd, and they were still sliding to the corners. You know, which was funny.
Had a great one year, JD. We were the good year we had with Wexford. Had a fella playing midfield for me called Shane Dunn. and Duxie was his nickname. But Duxie was, as happens in the League of Ireland, players miss games because of, there could be a wedding, or there could be an upcoming. We had a player, really important player, missed a game against Galway United, against Johnny's side last week, because he had his final exam in UCC, and it was a 5:30 exam and he couldn't get off, simple as. But we knew Duxie was due to miss this upcoming game, but Duxie was also on 4 yellows, so we decided, right, well, if we could pick up his 5th yellow, then that'd put him back to 0 on the yellows, and he's going to be missing the game next week anyway. So we were having to chat during the week as to, what way could he go about picking up the yellow. And I said, look, just don't overly worry about it. We'll see if you can pick up a cheap yellow towards the end of the game. So we were playing a really important game against UCD, and we scored a winner with about 3 minutes left, and it wasn't Duxie scored it now, it was just somebody else scored it. And as they scored it, we're celebrating on the sideline, and Duxie looks at me and starts putting the thumbs up, and I'm going, what? It had gone out of my head what he was singing at. So Duxie pulls the jersey off, goes running up the field, swinging it over his head.
Straight red card.
Yellow. Brilliantly timed yellow card.
Funny stuff.
You're probably going to be called before the FAI is just
bringing the game into disrepute now.
Yeah. Bournemouth 1, Chelsea 1, City 2, Leeds 0, Spurs 1, Palace 0, Wolves 1, Villa 0. David Connolly, Spurs, I don't know anymore. Do you?
What do you say to that, David?
Yeah, Richarlison's in the team actually today. He hasn't scored. It was Harry Kane that got the goal, but
well, I saw a brilliant video online earlier about there was a lad who's a massive Tottenham fan. He was doing his own commentary of that game, and when they equalised in the last, with 60 seconds left, he spent 45 of it talking to the camera about what a great point it was, and then by the time he turned around, Liverpool had scored. It's like hilarious. But yeah, I mean, I don't know where you start with Tottenham, but do you know what? In some ways, we've touched on Jurgen Klopp before, haven't we? His little spat with Ryan Mason. I'm glad Ryan. I know Ryan's obviously very inexperienced, but I'm glad he's given it a good go. He's had difficult games, and obviously it's a mess to be put into, and he's already been in it before, right? And he's got the world against him. But I like that he's given it a go, and I like that he's coming out and sticking up for himself with the likes of Klopp. And I hope he gets a result today for him as well, because like he's talked the talk when he got the interim, saying he's ready, he's learned, he's this, he's that. And I think, well, good for you. We spoke earlier about lads not wanting to get in and coach and manage or whatever. And, I hope he picks up a couple of, because he was close against Liverpool. They fought back. They've done really, really well. And I hope he does get a result today.
It seems a long time ago now. You mentioned, JD, all the football that's been on that Spurs-Liverpool game, which was obviously... Do you know what you think back at the Liverpool Spurs or Liverpool Newcastle 4-3s, and I was a kid watching them. This game, I think Ken Early spoke well about it in the Times. It was just two kind of stupid teams at the moment. It was a stupid game of football, and it wasn't even that memorable. But Klopp's behaviour was so poor. After
to the fourth official.
To the fourth official, and he got
when he pulled his hamstring.
Pulled his hamstring. That worked in his favour, lads, because that actually took the limelight away from what he'd done, and people started taking the piss out over the fact that he'd pulled his hamstring. That actually, that helped him in a way.
I really thought, when we've spoken about referees late in the League of Ireland, and a couple of controversial decisions and non-decisions last night as you have, but would you do that imagine somebody on the street behaving like in that manner to somebody? I just think it was so unbecoming of anyone, not to mind a football manager, not to mind somebody who was managing Liverpool, not to mind somebody who's had the success that he's had. I just thought it was really pathetic.
On the referee manager interactions, Jeddy, did you see the one about Jose wiring himself up for a game last weekend?
Yeah, well, that's just it's part of the Jose caricature, isn't it? Really,
it is. But it does make you think,
like washing baskets and all this kind of stuff, and like coming into the dressing room in a laundry bag.
To me. Okay, there's a serious advantage there to Jose because he knows they're both wired up, whereas the referee doesn't know they're both wired up. The simple fact is, for all the giving out that any of us do about referees as managers or as fans or whatever, I know if you wired me up without me knowing I was wired up, if you get me, and wired up the referee without the referee knowing they were wired up, at the end of a normal 90 minutes, which of the two of us would be more embarrassed by our behaviour?
Jesus,
you can be guaranteed it's me. You can be guaranteed it's me. You just lose all sense and all dignity when you're on a sideline. There's no point saying, if you wired up the manager, you'd hear some of the things that referees say to us. hear some of the things we say to them be a million times worse.
Last night, Bohs played Rovers, JD. It was a big game for Bohs because they've been top of the table practically throughout the season, and they were very, very unfortunate with decisions. Like the first goal that Rovers scored was probably offside, but more to the point, they were pressing for an equaliser at 1-0, and Jonathan Afolabi was 100% taken out. And if the referee, I think Rob Hennessy refed it, he may have not had a great view of it. The linesman probably should have seen it. So Bohs were really, really unfortunate with decisions. Lost the game 2-0, but they could argue that, like, you know, the referee cost them and so on.
There's a slow-mo doing the rounds, Johnny.
Of
the tackle.
You
need to see the slow-mo.
The Cleary tackle?
Yeah.
God, I've seen 4 angles of it. And
so he got the ball, did he?
I was nailed on. That was a penalty. I was driving home with Lee in the car last night, and Lee says, "Oh, look at the penalty that Bohs didn't get last night." And he showed me in full flow and from, I think, 2 angles. And I was, "Oh, how do you not give that?" Next thing we're like a half an hour further down the road, and next thing Lee goes, "Oh, hold on, have a look at this."
I'll have to get you.
And he shows me a slow mo of it from a different angle, and it looks like Dan Cleary actually makes a superb tackle and just gets the slightest touch on it.
So if that's true, right, my absolute apologies to Rob Hennessy, and even if it isn't, like, the mistakes were made, but my point was Declan Devine came on and he just said, we have to defend better, we have to score.
He didn't go on a
not
tight
in the
race.
slight. He said, I'm not here to give out about referees. I'm like, we have to defend that first goal better. And then Antonio Dunn, said the offside, he might, replay showed he may have been offside. Well, we have to defend the cross better than that. And he completely went out of his way to say this wasn't the referee's fault. I thought, like, I don't know Declan Devine well, but I thought he really went up my estimation the way he handled it, because it was a big game in front of live TV, 8,000 people, and they lost it because they were a little bit unlucky in my view with decisions.
It's a bit like David Connolly with Ferguson, because he's such an icon and he was so revered by a lot of people, and Klopp the same, that they kind of feel that sometimes push the edge too much and they feel like they get away with it a bit, and that they're always going to be defended by their fans, even if they're offside.
Yeah, big difference though, Johnny, because the dugout at Old Trafford is a lot. Well, you wouldn't say a long way, but it's far enough away from the pitch. But Sir Alex, he'd be in the fourth official and he'd defend, obviously, and fight for the decisions. But by and large, he was in his technical area, on sitting down in the bench. Whereas the likes of the modern day manager, Jurgen Klopp, an Arteta, a Guardiola, they stand on that sideline for 90 minutes and they don't stand in a technical area either. Whereas I think Sir Alex was a little bit different. You look at him, often the imagery I have of Sir Alex Ferguson, he might be, appealing for decisions or whatever on the sideline. By and large, he'd be in those seats up in set up at Old Trafford a little bit, So it's slightly different. Whereas nowadays, they are, well, in fact, they're on the pitch half the time. I saw David Moyes come on the pitch against Arsenal to complain about a decision, and I think in football everyone knows, Jurgen and his staff are up there in terms of one of the most venomous sort of staff in sort of coaches that there are. So I think Sir Alex was a little bit different in all honesty compared to the modern day ones now who don't sit down. They're always they're more or less on the pitch. Arteta's never in his area. He races out of his technical area. You can't keep him in that little cage, like a lion's cage. They don't pay any attention to that little white paint that's drawn there for them. So yeah, I think Sir Alex was a little bit different.
Okay. So no goals updates you in the Premier League. Bournemouth 1, Chelsea 1, City 2, Leeds 0, Spurs 1, Crystal Palace 0, Wolves 1, Aston Villa 0. We also have Brentford kicking off away to Liverpool at 5:30. We'll have the teams from Anfield for you shortly. Bohemians 1, Sligo Rovers 0 in the Women's Premier Division. The Stormers 30, the Bulls 14 in the URC quarter-final in South Africa. So it looks like Connacht going to the Stormers. Laois have beaten Kildare 123 to 11 points, much to Shane Keegan's delight in the Joe McDonagh Cup. We got the 2,000 guineas. I think I might have said it was 4.
Yeah, it's on 20 to... Aidan O'Brien with the first and second in the betting. It's going to be
440, the 2,000 guineas, so I apologise. Sligo Kerry 445, throwing at Pearse Stadium, the All-Ireland Under-20 Football Championship semi-final. Harry Kane scored the goal to pass Wayne Rooney, the all-time scorers list for Spurs, 209 Premier League goals, also the first player to score 10 headers in a single season.
Do you know you're on about Spurs, JD, and I should mention Tommy Barrett, the three-team manager, said Mark Ludden broke out the chicken dance to celebrate a goal last night.
The chicken dance, it is quite a sight to behold. He did it for me on a couple of occasions as well. Yeah,
got a few lads asking me to drop him after it. So a lot of players are like, don't be messing. The Spurs game though against Liverpool, they're 3-0 down, and the Spurs fans start to leave. And you were telling me a similar story where you're with guys, and you're like, okay, we give up on this. Spurs, the way they set up is really interesting because they're completely counter to the way modern football should be, in that they don't press at all. They sit back.
They're a
Conte team, and maybe that's kind of their condition to do that now under Mason, but like they didn't really change. Their body language at 3-0 didn't change, and once they got the first goal, because they just missed a really good chance for that, you're like, they're well in this game. And it was interesting watching it, where it was like their mentality was, don't worry about it, we're going to hit them on the counter, and they were very, very effective in the second half at that, and to me they deserve to get something from the game. But if you're a new coach coming into Spurs, does Harry Kane have the legs to be a presser? Do you bring Richarlison in, or what do you do? Do you change the way they play?
I think you first of all need to get rid of the keeper and and all the defenders. And if you keep Romero,
all the defenders. Yeah.
So if you keep Romero, you need to tell him to calm down. So you need a completely new defence, a new goalkeeper, in my opinion. I think 6 to 11 they're good. I think Bentancur's injury is a massive problem. I think he's probably the best player this season. And do you decide you got to cash in on Harry Kane in his last year for 100 million, or do you keep going with Harry Kane? If you cash in on Kane, you got the funds then to spend. Daniel Levy, the chairperson, is correctly under a lot of pressure, so he'll want to throw a bit of money at it, you'd hope. And then do you make the team then all about Richarlison? Stephen Doyle, our commentator, was making that point to me in the office.
That's right, it was
Richarlison as a number 9, still a young player.
The way he celebrated the goals, he's like, I've been sort of disenfranchised.
Well, he's an emotional player. As Erling Haaland nearly scores for City, 2-0 they lead Leeds.
Rico Lewis, what a pass.
So I just think you need a completely new defence, and you also need better recruitment. The recruitment has been terrible the last 10 years, I feel, in certain aspects.
I'd be fairly slow to hang me hat on Richarlison too, though, lads.
So if like Daniel Levy is a very tough negotiator, so if he doesn't want to take the 100 million, say to Man United or whatever, then you keep Harry Kane, and you try to keep Harry Kane on side, and then you try to build a whole new team around him. But do they have the football people, to the manager, say they got De Zerbi. De Zerbi goes into Spurs, and he's been linked with Inter Milan. De Zerbi needs complete control. You've got Scott Munn now as director. You need complete control of the football product of Spurs to make Spurs what they are. And as David Connolly would have told us before in the show, a lot of good people left the club that were in the coaching roles. Is that right, David?
Yeah. And I think there was, I think I told you that a little while ago, but I think there was a piece just the other day in The Athletic which more or less says what I just said, what I said a little while ago. So yeah, there's definitely, you wouldn't say the heart ripped out of that club, but there's certainly a lot of really good staff that were there that were important to it that have now gone. And look, the thing is, Johnny, it's kind of like they didn't have a sporting director. They had a sporting director, Paul Mitchell, with Poch. He fell out with Daniel Levy. He left. Poch wasn't happy with that. Poch left. Then they have another sporting director. Now you're saying, well, if they get De Zerbi, let him do everything. So that means no sporting director. So it comes back to like, what exactly what model are they gonna go down? Are they gonna give full autonomy and control? Is he going to cede that to get the right man in charge? Or
because it is mad, David. Like the whole idea of having a sporting director is that even if you're chopping and changing managers, so long as you have the same sporting director, the same philosophy will stay in place. So if you're going to chop and change sporting directors, what's the point in having a sporting director?
They had to get rid of Paratici. Well, they should have got him in the first place. I think
as much as you're taking on petrol states and all of that, like, it should be such an attractive club.
It's worth £2 billion.
And like in London, brilliant stadium. Like, it has so much going for it. And in fairness, they're not having an awful season. They're having a far better season than the likes of Chelsea, for example. They're probably going to be out of the Champions League now, but there's so much going for that club potentially.
But when you become the laughing stock of everybody, it's not a good place to be.
I don't know if I'd say a far better season than Chelsea. Like, there's a hell of a chance that Spurs finish in 8th place and Chelsea. But also
Chelsea, if the American Todd Bailey can get out of the way, Chelsea have, and if they got, and Pochettino's going to go there. And Pochettino's a brilliant manager.
That's going to break
and then you have all these players and a bigger reserve of money that you can see Chelsea, if they just let Pochettino do the job, within 3 to 5 years they'll be in a better position than Spurs. And you look at Newcastle now, the way they're playing at the moment, they'll be the team to challenge probably City, in the coming years.
Great thought.
Newcastle, David Connolly, I suppose it sums up the thinking. You got this geopolitical tension between Saudi Arabia and Qatar. Lionel Messi is leaving PSG in the summer, and they're talking about Neymar to Newcastle. But that would be interesting, wouldn't it? I suppose the Instagram account would go up anyway.
I think that's paper talk.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way that
Eddie Howe and Neymar doesn't sound like a marriage.
No, and I think Dan Ashworth, who was at Brighton, he's in there at Newcastle now. I guess the model that they would be looking at with Eddie Howe is very much team orientated, an awful lot in training, 11v11s, an awful lot on shape, being hard to beat, breakdown. A player like Neymar is not in that, and also one player like that could absolutely
mess everything.
Shane would say that.
Shane actually can tell you that his last season at Go United was ruined by making suspicious that on paper look like good signs. David, you got to do a bit of character vetting though.
Exactly.
Just who's impressed you in the Newcastle team, David?
Well, I think you go through the spine of the team, and I think their signings have been great. I mean, I know Pope had a bit of a mare. I think it was against, I can't remember,
United.
Liverpool. United, that's it.
No, sorry, he was ruled out of the United after the Liverpool game.
Yeah, he was. I think he's been brilliant. So you start with Pope. Trippier has been excellent. Guimaraes. Now Isaac's fit. I mean, there's probably like a core of 4 or 5 players. You go right through the spine of the team. And they've been really, really good, But look, they're based on a really solid platform. They have the lowest, and I'm not a big one for stats, right? But I worked on the Arsenal game. They have the lowest ball in play in the Premier League, or I think Leeds. The ball in play is even less at Leeds. So, they do play a particular way, which is successful for them. Right, which is successful, but it is a particular way in terms of being very, very hard to beat, break down. As I said, comes back to all the work he does on the training ground, which a lot of players might not like, but a lot of players like that. If you're going to win with it, they will do a lot of the 11v11s and the tactical work if it wins, because you can see that there's actually a positive outcome for it.
Are you surprised by Eddie Howe, Shane? Sorry, David. Are you surprised by... Because in fairness to Eddie Howe, like, regardless of the Saudi project, like, the way he's just managed that progress is actually quite astounding.
Yeah, well, anybody who's playing bingo for my cliches will be waiting for me to say I did my pro licence with Eddie Howe.
Like
no,
JD
sorry,
and
A
all the
licence.
honours.
Sorry, A licence with Eddie Howe. On the back of doing my A licence with Eddie Howe, I told anybody who would listen to me that this man was set for stardom. So again, I think I've said this before. So the two players who were working in the league when I did my A licence were Carl Robinson, who's just landed on the TV in front of us.
They're losing 2-0.
Yeah, and Eddie Howe. And to be fair, both extremely impressive characters, but in very, very different ways. Carl Robinson was very much the alpha male in the room. I'm here, all eyes on me. I'm loud, I'm brash, and I like to grab all the attention. And was very good in that manner. I don't say that as a negative. Whereas Eddie was the complete and utter opposite. Very softly spoken, didn't exactly shout his mouth off by any stretch of the imagination. But every time he opened his mouth, it was like a hush had descended upon the room, because every time he spoke like really, really good stuff, and really stuff you wanted to hear, and just made sense all the time. And he was capturing your attention in a very, very different way. And he just struck me as meticulous in preparation, and a guy who you would like to play your football under.
Hey, I tell you this as well. Just sorry to
go on, David.
Yeah, because I used to see Eddie Howe and Jason Tindall at an awful lot of games when Bournemouth were in the Championship. Say they had a free weekend, or when Bournemouth got promoted to the Premier League, that you play less games, right? If you're in Europe or whatever. So I just happened to always be at the same games as them. They must have been scouting lads like down in the Championship. There wasn't, they must have their own scouts, but they were often at games themselves, And it's funny, you get a big sheet of paper or whatever with the teams on, right? And I looked at them, and they had this A4 sheet, right? They folded it and folded it and folded it and folded it and folded it, and eventually it was the size of a matchbox, right? and it just had the 2 starting 11s, and it was as big as a matchbox, and whatever they wrote was on it, and it was either like a star, bang, yes, we're signing him, or not. And it was what I'm getting at is something. It's a bit simplistic. Do you know what I mean? But there's a beauty in that as well. In that on the day off, they're going to watch the games. They obviously have to have the final approval about who they sign. Have we seen him live? Because let me tell you, a lot of managers and clubs sign players, and sometimes a manager might not have even seen them live. But when you're down at Bournemouth, you've got to do your due diligence, right, and make sure you get to the game. And then also, there was not this big laptop. It wasn't a big pad. It was an A4 sheet of paper that they hand out with the teams on, and it was, the size of a matchbox.
Yeah, mine is all on my phone. So I just pop open the notes section on the phone. It's great. You can just use it for anything. Yeah. So say last Saturday, I would have jumped into the car, headed down to Limerick for the FAI Junior Cup final, which would be the biggest junior game in the country, Newmarket Celtic against St. Michael's. And there was a player on each team. I suppose when you go to games, you're quite often going to a game with a specific person in mind, or maybe 2 people in mind you're going to watch, but then you've also got to be open-minded to, does somebody else actually catch the eye, even though you're there to look at that player? You're just jotting down a couple, you're just making a couple of notes on the phone as you're going along, and some people will, you'll go down looking at them and they'll rise in your estimation, and others you'll say are not for you. But it is, technology does make life so handy these days that you don't even need that pen and paper anymore. You can lose a pen and paper, even if I lose the phone, the bloody notes are still stored on the cloud, so you've got everything there at your fingertips. But the key thing there is, as David says, the names that were given to me, the 2 names that were given to me by very, very guys I would absolutely trust, very, very trustworthy sources. But I'm not going to look to bring them in unless I've gone and actually watched them in the flesh myself. And as Johnny has said, if I do like to look at them in the flesh, now it's all about going and finding as many different opinions on their character as you possibly can as well.
John Russell's doing a brilliant job at Sligo Rovers, and for a Galway lad who I think Stephen Bradley said they were the best team they played this season, but we spoke to him recently and he said the most important job a manager has is recruitment.
Oh, without a doubt.
That's it.
And clubs
to make or break it.
Yeah, just recruit well, and then you have the ingredients, so then just put the cake together. And Sligo have a player on loan from Leipzig, Fabrice Hartmann, and I there were some issues with him. He couldn't play last season for some bizarre paperwork issues. Yeah. And you're watching this lad play, GD, and first of all you're like, Jesus, this lad is so talented. And secondly, how did Sligo Rovers get a lad from Leipzig? And he's gotten players from like Estonia and New Zealand, and thrown them all together into a League of Ireland team in a small town in the west of Ireland. And for me, they've been one of the stories of the season, really, and it's his first job.
They're playing Dundalk tonight. I think there's City fans chanting a Sam Allardyce. They're 2-0 down.
It's absolutely love if they got a couple of goals back.
Gundogan has scored twice for City in the Premier League, and Leeds have 3 games to save themselves. They've got Newcastle, West Ham and Spurs are the remaining 3 games. It's 1-1 Bournemouth Chelsea. It's Tottenham 1 Palace 0. It's Wolves 1 Aston Villa 0. And just in terms of sport elsewhere, just to bring you up to speed, and the women's Premier Division, Bohemians 1 Sligo Rovers 0 at Dalymount, and DLR Waves 0 Wexford Youths 0. The Stormers 33, the Bulls 14 in the URC quarterfinals. Laois beat Kildare 123 to 11 points in the Joe McDonagh Cup, and the 2,000 guineas is about 8 minutes from post time. David Connolly is on the line, Shane Keegan's in studio, Johnny Ward is in studio. We're back at Football Saturday after this.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky, don't miss Nottingham Forest versus Southampton on Monday Night Football. Live only on Sky Sports.
This is News Talk. Got something to say?
That woman was incredible on the hard shoulder, Kieran. Such an inspiring story.
Sean, that film recommendation from Movies and Booze was top notch. Just what I needed.
Pat, where can I find that delicious fish recipe?
That caller you had on, Andrea, was spot on about the energy crisis, but we need to look at alternatives.
Want to join in on the chat?
Send us a WhatsApp. We want your messages, voice notes and pictures. WhatsApp our new number 087 1400 106.
Anyone want another picture from my weekend in Donegal?
News Talk. Conversation that counts.
Get your summer off to the best possible start with Go Breaks. Enjoy incredible value hotel deals all across Ireland. From family breaks to coastal escapes. You'll find unbeatable offers when you book with us this May. Or if Europe's more your thing, discover our amazing selection of sun, sand and city destinations across the continent. Go experience, go explore this summer with Go Breaks. As recommended by News Talk. Go Breaks. T's and C's at gobreaks.ie.
Because you've enough to be worrying about, we've launched Toyota Relax, our new service-activated warranty. Whether you bought your Toyota from us, a classified ad, or your auntie, once it's less than 10 years old with under 185,000 kilometres, you'll get a 12-month warranty with every Toyota service. There's no catch. You don't even need to have serviced with us before. For more, search Toyota Relax. Toyota, built for a better world. Terms and conditions apply.
Tourism businesses have a brand new mark of employer excellence. Driven by the employee's voice, the Employer Excellence Programme recognises employers who consistently create better workplaces for their employees. Attract and retain top talent. Shine the spotlight on your business. The Employer Excellence Programme. Learn more at falterireland.ie.
Why pay more when you can play more? Switch to Virgin Media's super fast and reliable 500 meg broadband and save up to €380. So what are you waiting for? Switch now at virginmedia.ie/save.
Virgin Media. It's playtime.
For terms and conditions, see virginmedia.ie.
The outbreak of conflict in Sudan is forcing tens of thousands from their homes, leaving them displaced and in danger. Over 2 million people across Sudan rely on Goal for food and healthcare. This violence means more are in need every day. Please make an urgent donation now at goal.ie, because that's what goalies do. Thank you.
The budget is tight, so you might have to don the old overalls and...
Nope, I am not fitting our new kitchen. I'm allergic to all types of manual labour. We're going with Cash and Carry Kitchens. They've got free fitting on a select range of kitchens, and with over 40 years experience, they actually know what they're doing.
Nice research. Well done you.
Yes, I nailed it. No hammer required.
Get free fitting on selected kitchens at Cash and Carry Kitchens for a limited time. See in store for details or go online to cashandcarrykitchens.ie. Terms and conditions apply.
Global superstar Michael Bublé is back. Higher Tour Live. 13th and 14th of May, 3 Arena Dublin. Michael Bublé, like you've never seen him before. Tickets from $89.50 on sale now from Ticketmaster.ie. Additional charges may apply.
I just haven't met you yet.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky, catch West Ham versus Man United this Sunday. Live only on BT Sport.
This is News Talk.
And this is Off the Ball Saturday with John Duggan until 5. Remember, Football Saturday on Off the Ball brought to you by Sky. Watch every live Premier League game this season on Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports. You can text us 53106. Tweet us at Off the Ball. We got David Connolly, the former Republic of Ireland striker, on the line with Johnny Ward and Shane Keegan in studio. The Liverpool team is in.
We're trying to pick the Guineas winner, JD, but like you get 1,000,000 to 1 on Liverpool game into 0-0 today. They're trying to fit, and Shane Keegan said, and I'm taking your words there, they're trying to fit Gakpo, Nunes, Jota and Salah into the one team. And the other two midfielders are Curtis Jones and Fabinho. Is it 4-2-4, 6-4?
Yeah, well, he'll call it 4-2-3-1, but the 3 and 1 are pretty much all guys who can play at centre forward, aren't they? So it'll be interesting. It's very, very rare that Klopp veers away from his standard 4-3-3, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes for him.
Yes, Alisson, Alexander-Arnold, Konate, Van Dijk, Robertson come into the team today as well. Jones, Fabinho, Salah, Nunes, Jota, Gakpo. For Brentford, it's
going to be a lot of goals.
Yeah, 2 changes. So Jarnson and Onyeka coming in for Damsgaard and Kevin Schade.
Spurs are still 17 points ahead of Chelsea after losing a game they shouldn't have lost. Come on, they are having a better season. I know Chelsea did okay in the Champions League, but
it's just Frank Lampard, isn't it? He can't win a game.
I actually, lads, interesting. Just when we got the notes for the chatting points today, and we were talking about how seasons have gone for teams. I brought up. Another way the bookmakers do the handicap market.
Yeah.
At the start at the handicap market at the start
Chelsea
of
are
the season.
bottom anyway.
Because quite often as a season goes along, you're like, yeah, sure, they're great, but it wasn't thought they were great before a ball was kicked, or they're struggling, but they were supposed to finish high.
Arsenal must be really good on this.
Yeah. Arsenal come out near enough top, or the very top. Wait till we see here. I had it up here a minute ago. Here we go. Yeah, so like of the relegation ones, like of the 5 teams who could still be relegated, who do you think was expected to finish highest of those?
Leicester.
Leicester were supposed to finish 9th.
Yeah.
Leicester were supposed to finish 9th, which is amazing, really. So it is. Liverpool were supposed to finish 2nd. Spurs were supposed to be 3rd. Chelsea were supposed to be 4th. So all 3 of those, have had incredibly poor seasons. But yeah, look, the one that probably floats under the radar is Fulham. Fulham were supposed to go down.
Yeah, Brentford and Brighton as well.
Have never been anywhere near it. Have never been anywhere near it. Brighton, obviously, were down to finish 11th. They've massively overachieved as well. And Brentford, 15th. They were supposed to be.
It is still Spurs 1, Palace 0, Wolves 1, Villa 0. City going to go 4 points clear. And with this, their game in hand against Leeds, they lead 2-0. And we have Newcastle and Arsenal commentary here on News Talk tomorrow. Stephen Doyle and Brian Kerr. Bournemouth 1, Chelsea 1.
I'm not a coach, but that just sounds a basket case system to me, what Klopp is doing there. I have no idea. How is he trying to fit all those
players in? He did it in a European game or an FA Cup game.
Maybe if they were 4-0 down the first leg.
I think it served them well, the game he played it against earlier in the season. I think it served them well.
I just do want, you look at the philosophy of Eddie Howe.
But they don't have a midfield, by the way, Liverpool.
They don't have a midfield. Thiago looks like, he's injured again. The lads against Spurs, they kind of died out.
That's why McAllister's been linked to Liverpool this week.
Yeah, he could be. But again, what's Liverpool's? I don't know what their actual philosophy is anymore. Their philosophy used to be get the ball to the front 3 and work your ass off in midfield. Now I'm like, how are you fitting those fours? How do you fit Núñez into the picture? Do Klopp's signings actually make sense anymore? I don't know.
David Connolly, do Klopp's signings make sense anymore?
Well, I mean, look, they're trying to bring the average age down, right? Because when they had, you go back to when a few seasons ago, obviously they were signing, your Salahs and your Manes and all these sorts of players when they were just below their prime, and now they obviously, they come up and then they're up in their prime and they're probably just going over their prime. So they're trying to, bring it down again with the lads they signed. They haven't signed a midfielder for like 3 seasons, and it looks like it's not going to be Bellingham. So that will be interesting about who they bring in the middle of the park.
Who would you bring in, David?
Do you know what? I really don't know. I mean, Man City are not going to sell him Calvin Phillips to play at the base of midfield, are they? They're not. I doubt it, right?
Maybe Guardiola will be like, they don't count anymore. Just sell them because, like,
Jesus and Zinchenko's not a good example of that.
Penalty for City here, lads. Watch the run by Phil Foden. Look at this. Look at that. Knocks it one side, runs the other.
About, Phil Foden's been out of the picture completely, and he could come back now for the Champions League, and that's how obviously the strength of the City squad.
It's the kind of thing you used to do in the schoolyard: flick it one side and run around the other, and try and catch it the other side. Absolutely brilliant play.
Declan Rice types suit them, David, or?
Well, if they're not going to pay 100 million for Bellingham, they're not going to pay 100 million for Declan Rice, surely. If that's what, because you'd go obviously for Bellingham, wouldn't you? But it looks like that ship has sailed now, by the sounds of it. So I don't know. And I mean, they've tried a few sort of sticky plasters in the middle of the park in the last couple of years, whether it's Thiago coming in, etc. But I mean, whether they need someone younger, long-term, proper defensive midfielder would be, and then obviously at the,
Ilkay Gundogan through. Oh, he's at the post. Hit the post. He's missed a chance for a hat trick.
He shouldn't be taking the penalty in the first place.
I was just wondering. I'm amazed.
He was going for the glory and he misses. Sorry, David.
No, that's all right. But look, Kanate, they probably need someone else at the back as well in the spine of the team. So they got a bit of work to do in the summer. That's for sure. But today, I wonder whether he's gone with 2 up. I mean, at times he's played 2 up front, right? He's played a diamond in midfield. He's done a few things this season to veer away to get a result. But I don't know if I don't think he's playing that today.
What is he actually playing with that? Like, is he playing 4-2-4?
4-2-4 is, yeah. Like Brighton do it I know I keep saying it, like I would watch a Brighton game before I'd watch any game in the Premier League, because that's essentially what they do. They look to play out. They look to play it. They literally, like, you need to see some of the still graphics of what Brighton do, because they literally line the 4 up on the halfway line, and then the 6, the back 4 plus the 2 midfielders and the keeper. There's a goal back for Leeds.
Leeds have scored. Rodrigo, Manchester City 2, Leeds 1, just a minute after City.
Just want to see Big Sam going up to Man City fans if he is getting sacked in the morning. This is
84 minutes in the watch here. The Etihad is the title race back in the melting pot. And Manchester City, Gundogan took the penalty, going for the glory, going for the hat-trick, hits the post, and then Leeds go down the other end, and all those Leeds fans and all under heariness. It's Rodrigo with the goal, 2-1 to City.
JD, that's serious messing.
Oh, and it was bad defensive, gave the ball away. Well taken finish.
You're not letting Gundogan take that penalty.
Well, that's messing. That is messing of that. Like, imagine if they draw this game now.
Imagine
if they lose the title and go on to lose the title because messing around, like not letting your proper penalty taker take one because
Big Sam, the fist pump. Robbie Keane there as well.
Frankie Dettori has won the Guineas on Shaldane, and the 2 Irish horses ran absolute stinkers, actually.
Right.
Wins well on softened ground at Newmarket.
We haven't asked you about Evan Ferguson yet, David Connolly.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Should Liverpool sign Evan Ferguson? Obviously. He'd be, you could play like 4-1-5 then.
You got to 4:44. Johnny Ward has mentioned Evan Ferguson for the first time.
Yeah, it's been pretty crap of late, no Evan Ferguson to look at.
Brentford also play, a 5-3-2 sometimes. And I remember when they went to City, they went over the top of the City press, and it was City lost at home.
And that's 100% what they'll try and do today, without a doubt. That's what they'll try and do again today, and that could be an interesting game.
There'll be goals. David Connolly, Evan Ferguson, any fresh thoughts from the last time we spoke to you about a week ago about him?
No, apart from he signed his new deal, hasn't he? Good news. Yeah, that's good news. And as I've been saying, one of the most important things is the fella that he's got who's going to be teaching him. I think he's got a master manager. So
on that, David, actually, sorry to interrupt. De Zerbi, it's not so much this. Is it the stature of the club now might be less relevant? Does De Zerbi say if Spurs came looking for him, listen, this is actually a club that just suits me. I love the philosophy. I love the way we play. Love my role in the whole narrative. I'm absolutely happy here.
Well, maybe, but look, if they sell they sell their players, right, and they sell their coaches, Brighton. So everyone's got a price. And to me, he seems like he's very ambitious. I think he's got a personality that would absolutely cope, like in a whatever sort of club you're. Yeah, he's confident. He can be aggressive, and I think he can be confrontational. And I don't think he minds that with players. He can mix it. So I think he's a tactical master. And even, I had to put out the other day about Guardiola. Someone laughed at me apparently when I said how good De Zerbi was, and then Guardiola said they're the best in the world, Brighton, at building from the back. And
so you're right.
They are.
Yeah.
Well, only when you watch them,
it's class.
You got to see it. You got to see it because I've seen it for months and months and months. So anyway, get back to Evan. So that's great news for Evan because he's got a fabulous teacher to help him.
Well, it's such a well-run club. Tony Bloom knows the price of apples and oranges. He's a multi-millionaire data guy. They got Paul Barber, former Spurs, in there, CEO, and it just seems like the club is very well run. Just some comments here. Phil on YouTube: Kelleher to Spurs? ? Another one. Ryan,
where is Kelleher? How good is he?
We don't know until we need to see. Like Bazunu, you need to see a full season, I think. The
way the old rumour mill works. Here's a good. Roddy, actually, friend of mine. Roddy still does sells eggs on a Saturday down in Cork, and friend of mine, Ross King, hurling for Laois today in the match. So he sells eggs on a Saturday down in Cork, and was talking to a relation of Caoimhin Kelleher's when he was selling eggs down there recently, and apparently it is very real possibility that Caoimhin Kelleher could go to Spurs.
Right,
there you
go.
I'm not sure he should be. Anyway,
yeah. All these rumours.
The thing about Caoimhin, right? And this is not I'm not comparing him to Danny Ward at Leicester, but Danny Ward was waiting for Kasper Schmeichel to leave eventually to get his chance, And by the time he did leave, he just wasn't able or wasn't ready to be that number one. And Caoimhin's got to go and go and be a number one somewhere, because the longer you leave it, I think.
Here's a question for both of you, and I'm sorry to again interrupt your comments. What percentage of goalkeeping now, David, and for you, Shane, at the top level is use of the ball?
Well, it depends who you are.
Yeah,
depends who you are.
100%.
Nick Pope doesn't, he's not very good with the ball at his feet. So it depends. It depends which team, doesn't it?
Kelleher is very well sourced in that regard, where he can go into pretty much any team and say, I'm actually very comfortable here in that regard. I think that's definitely something that will stand to him.
Frank Lampard's going to get his first one as Chelsea manager. They lead Bournemouth 3-1 now. A couple of late goals, Benoit Badiashile and João Felix. 3-1.
As a manager, Johnny, so it depends, right? If you've got a transfer window or you've taken over before the start of a season, you can sign a goalkeeper. Well, then you can you can sign a goalkeeper to suit your needs.
Yeah.
But you might be arriving into a club, mid-season or something like that, or you might, exactly. And then you've got a decision to make. Do you try and get the keeper to do what you want him to do? Or do you say, no, this is the keeper's capabilities, therefore and the only reason I say it is my first job, when I first went in with Wexford, I would have been one of these fellas after doing all these coaching badges and the whole lot, and I had great notions of how we were going to play out from the back, and we were going to do this and we were going to do that. And in reality, when I looked around at the goalkeeping options I could get, I went and got an absolutely outstanding goalkeeper for me for all 5 seasons. He was outstanding for me. Graham Doyle, brilliant goalkeeper. But he wasn't a give me the ball to my feet, I want to pass out from the back kind of goalkeeper. So we just abandoned that.
I should mention before the show is over, his goalkeeper at the moment, Lee Stacey, gave me a lift home after the Galway Cobh game last Friday. Turned up, just gave me a lift home, literally dropped me to the house, and then got in his cab to drive 3 hours as a cab driver before he could go to bed at like 4 or 5 in the morning.
The joys of the League of Ireland.
Well, Johnny, it's good that you're liked. 53106. Hi lads, who did the panel think Man United should target as a new centre forward? Kane, Ozyman or Watkins from Fuff in Bray on my birthday? Well, happy birthday, Fuff. David Connolly, who should United get in with Rashford there?
Are they going to spend 100 million on Harry Kane? I'd be surprised. Ollie Watkins is obviously like a fit as a flea and full of energy. I'd probably say Ozyman out of all of them, because I think he's probably a hybrid of all of those two players, maybe, and a little bit more, so. Depends on what his costs. I'd say he'd probably be cheaper than both of those two players as well. I could be wrong.
What a story that is. Napoli winning the league 33 years after Diego Maradona.
Yeah, some celebrations, wasn't there? Did you see the pictures?
It was like the end of the world.
Clips? Oh my God, absolutely incredible. It really, really
Son
was.
of an alleged mob boss killed as well in the middle of it, where it looks like, according to the authorities over there, it looked like he was taken out because they knew the celebration was so mad. This is a good time to actually do a hit here. Like, no word of a lie. The son of a mob boss was like, so Napoli is never been, but it's certainly, you've seen the Maradona documentary.
Johnny probably needs to insert the word allegedly in case they're listening to him. In case they're listening to him in Italy there.
There is a beautiful element of the old versus the new here in the last couple of minutes, where Leeds are kind of lumping the ball forward and Man City defenders aren't used to this anymore, and they're frantically, and like Haaland's going into the corner now to preserve their 2-1 lead at the moment.
Yeah, so it looked like Gundogan scoring twice. He's coming off now after missing the penalty to make it 3. Leeds went down the other end and Rodrigo scored.
He's Ike Gundogan goals. He scored the most goals, most possessions won, most passes, I think, and possibly most touches in the opposition box. 4 starts. He's number 1 in anyway today.
And Leeds have 1 minute. Go on.
Where would Leeds be though if Rodrigo had been fit? He missed player, he was. I think he had 12 before he got injured, and then I think that's only his second goal since his not only his second goal, but
fascinating.
So if it had been fit, then he missed a good chunk of games, didn't he, after the break, which has cost Leeds a little bit.
I wonder will Ilkay Gundogan ever wear a Man City shirt again? A video on Twitter showing Pep screaming at Haaland to take the penalty. Bohemians won, Sligo Rovers 0 in the Women's Premier Division coming up to the end there. It'll be the Stormers against Connacht in the URC quarterfinals. 33 win over Bulls 21 today. and Laois 123, Kildare 11 points full time from the Joe McDonagh Cup. 93 minutes and 50 seconds, Manchester City 2, Leeds United 1 in the Premier League. Wolves have beaten Aston Villa by a goal to nil. That surely makes them safe. That goal coming at Molyneux from Totti, the defender, in the 9th minute. Spurs 1, Palace 0 in injury time. Harry Kane with the goal. Bournemouth 1, Chelsea 3. A first win for Frank Lampard, Badia Shiel and João Felix with late goals.
One for you, JD. Liam Holton, a mate of mine in future ticketing. My 10-year-old daughter was listening to Off the Ball and she wants to know what she needs to study in college to be on the radio.
Personal relationships, get on with people.
What course do you do to study that in college, Johnny?
Sounds like being a football manager.
You know, all I say about college is do whatever course you want. It's all about maturing and meeting people and getting on and getting good friends and then applying yourself to study. And there's lots of great journalism courses.
It's a great timing for this. I'm doing a careers fair as a past pupil of Marion College Tuesday week. I'm just gonna steal JD's advice there and roll it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
It doesn't matter what you do. It's about applying yourself and just getting on with people.
We can't all be Premiership footballers like David Connolly.
Yeah, well, that's it. And you also can't be on Homes of the Hammers. So yeah. But for the
movie show.
Don't forget the movie show. You well and truly flunked that.
Yeah. David, thanks so much.
Cheers, lads.
Cheers, David.
Great. David Connolly, former Republic of Ireland striker. And Manchester City have done it. 4 points clear at the top of the Premier League. Pep Guardiola looks a bit relieved. He shakes Sam Allardyce's hand. They've beaten Leeds by 2-1, and they now go 4 points clear. They play the same number of games now as Arsenal at the top of the Premier League. We've got full commentary of Newcastle against Arsenal in the Premier League tomorrow. Also in the Premier League, results coming in. Spurs have beaten Palace 1-0 and Chelsea have beaten Bournemouth by 3-1. That is it, Johnny. Shane, thanks you. Thanks, appreciate your time today. And thank you also everybody for listening. We really appreciate you listening today. Don't forget, we're back tomorrow 1 to 7 here in Off the Ball on News Talk. Joe Malloy in the chair. Going to showcase that live and exclusive commentary game of the Premier League between Newcastle and Arsenal. Stephen Doyle and Brian Kerr calling it. Also have reports and reaction from the GA football provincial finals involving All-Ireland champions Kerry and Clare and Galway and Sligo. James O'Donoghue and Colin Boyle providing expert analysis from the venues with Tommy Rooney and Aisling O'Reilly reporting. Also going to bring you the Sunday paper review. Be sure to tune in tomorrow. If you missed any of OTB Football Saturday with David Connolly, Shane Keegan and Johnny Ward, or our Gaelic football preview with Cora Staunton, or our hurling chat with Taggy Fogarty, TJ Ryan and Michael Verne, you can find the podcasts on the Off the Ball section of the Go Loud Network, or be sure to listen back wherever you get your pods. Thanks so much for listening on your radio across the country here on News Talk today. We'll speak tomorrow at 1. Enjoy your evening. Goodbye.
Give him a ball and he out of grass. He'll give you a move for the perfect pass.